What if everything you thought you knew about faith, religion, the universe, and success wasn't the whole truth? What if the answers have been in front of us all along, hidden in religion, science, and the very fabric of reality? I grew up in the Bible Belt, surrounded by deep faith, but as I got older, I started questioning. That search led me to study psychology, philosophy, and ultimately law, where I was trained to analyze evidence and think critically. As a prosecutor and later a defense attorney, I built my career on uncovering the truth beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I bring that same investigative mindset to life's biggest questions: faith, spirituality, and the forces that shape our lives. I'm Alexis Austin, and this is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, the search for truth. It's time to uncover the evidence. Hello, and welcome back to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Now, if you listen to the last episode, episode 6, where we talked about the idea that success isn't about luck or hustle, but about operating with universal truths, specifically how aligning your internal thoughts correctly will make the outer world reflect what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So in other words, looking at how your thoughts actually shape your reality. If you're thinking, okay, well, I listened to that episode and I tried it, but nothing is changing and I don't understand why. Number one, it could be that you're listening to these back to back, so you'll try this for, a minute or two. But if that's not the case, if you listen to that episode and you tried to start aligning your inner thoughts with the outer reality you want to create and you're still not doing it, it could be because there are subconscious patterns and subconscious beliefs that are very deeply embedded in the way that you're approaching the world and your thought patterns that you may not even be aware of. And the question then becomes, well, how do you change something subconscious? Because the subconscious, if you know anything about the subconscious operates subconsciously. In other words, things like our heartbeats are regulated by the subconscious mind, our breathing, our eye blinking, all of those things that we just naturally do are regulated by the subconscious mind. But what a lot of people don't know is thoughts are also controlled by the subconscious mind. And specifically, there are beliefs that are deeply embedded into the subconscious mind that affect and impact how you actually think and how you interact with the world. So today, what I want to talk with you about are the psychological principles about the way that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind relate, how they play on each other, and more specifically to what we talked about in the last episode, how you can start to rewire your mind, specifically your subconscious mind, to start eradicating beliefs that no longer serve you and be able to transform the outer results that you're seeing by cleaning up the beliefs that are deeply embedded in your subconscious mind that you may or may not be aware were even there. This episode is going to go deeply into how those subconscious beliefs were programmed and how you can unprogram them from controlling your thought patterns and the results that you're seeing as a result of those thought patterns. So let's dive in. In the mind, we have the conscious and we have the subconscious. Another way to think of this as we have the thinking mind and we have the emotional mind. Now, I'm sure you all have heard about the conscious and the subconscious, and you hear, well, you have these subconscious thoughts, but this really helps us understand the difference between the conscious thinking mind and the subconscious emotional mind. Now, the conscious mind, this part of the mind can do a couple of things. It can think, it can reason, it can accept or reject an idea, it can imagine things, and it houses the greatest power that you personally have, which is your ability to choose. Your logical thinking conscious mind can choose what to think and what not to think. It has that ability. This is usually what we think of when we think about the brain or the mind, this conscious thinking mind. Underneath that, what we have is the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind cannot think at all. It cannot reason. It cannot imagine. It can't reject any idea. What that means is it has to accept anything that's put into it. So anything that gets into your brain, this is also how advertisement works, is they play to those subliminal messages and they get into your subconscious mind without you even realizing it. Your subconscious has to accept any input it gets. It also accepts behaviors that you feed into it. It accepts what you personally are telling it. It's very fascinating because it cannot distinguish between what's imagined or what's reality. And this shows up a lot if we're looking at, like, when people are worrying. If you're worrying about something, the subconscious mind doesn't know that worry is thinking about a future possibility. When you get all this emotional feeling about, well, what if the money's not here? And you start getting all pent up and worried, your subconscious mind can't tell that this isn't happening right now. It just takes whatever's going on as real and happening to us right now. So it kicks into this nervous energy. It says, well, there's no money. There's no money. What are we going to do? And it starts spinning and spinning and spinning, and it gets you into a complete tizzy. It cannot tell the difference between what's real and imagined. That can be both positive and negative. You could also change your conscious or your subconscious mind by feeding it positive things because it doesn't know. You could start telling it, this is where affirmations come in. You start telling it, everything is great, people are always buying, and you feed it over and over enough, the subconscious mind has to take that input because it cannot tell the difference between truth and reality. The only thing the subconscious mind can do is recognize patterns. It is designed to recognize patterns. People often refer to this as kind of the reptilian mind, the most basic mind that we have. The subconscious is constantly looking for patterns. That's how it identifies the world. That's how it makes sense of the world. That's what's going on when you're teaching a baby, this is a ball. You're putting into the subconscious mind what a ball is. It's recognizing that pattern so that when it sees another round object in the future, it says, oh, I know that pattern. That pattern is a ball. And the main point of the subconscious mind is just to keep you alive. It's also to get you to the point of procreation. So all it cares about is not dying and procreating. This is, again, why advertisements are so incredibly effective, especially when they do things like have sex in some way, like sex appeal. It gets into your subconscious mind because that's what the subconscious mind does. It keeps you alive and it furthers the human race. The point at which the subconscious mind has patterns that it's recognizing and those differ from what the conscious mind is saying, that's where cognitive dissonance occurs. When the subconscious mind doesn't line up with what's going on in the conscious mind and there's a conflict. The body, the best way to think of the body is the body manifests into physical reality what's going on in the subconscious mind. So the subconscious is kind of like, I read a book one time where she called it The Angry Little Prince. It's this little guy that's in your head that's basically like a child who's running the show, doing everything, and the body is just putting out what the subconscious ideas and beliefs are. The body executes what the subconscious mind has already accepted. This is going to become important as we move forward. But first, it's important to know that the subconscious mind is the only thing that we have until about the age of 7. With the subconscious mind, before the age of 7, what's happening is little children only have the subconscious mind. They do not yet have, and this makes sense if you think about it, they don't yet have the capacity for logical reasoning. They can't decide what they believe. They can't choose to do certain things. They're just acting as a sponge. Now, this is both positive and negative because when children are experiencing things, basically it's just an open sponge where everything gets dumped in before the age of 7. So any beliefs that their parents had, any environmental factors, anything that they see, hear, experience, it all comes in completely unfiltered. Because if you remember, the conscious mind has the ability to reason, it has logic, it has the ability to filter things. The subconscious mind cannot filter. It cannot tell truth from reality. So little children are basically just open sponges. I'm sure you all have heard, if you have kids, you've heard, you got to watch out what you say, the kids absorb everything. This is why that happens, because they have no ability to consciously think. It's all subconscious. Now, this is incredibly important to know because everything that we experience and think before the age of 7 gets deeply enrooted in our subconscious mind. We have no power to reject it. We have no power to control it. The way that we're brought up completely dictates the beliefs that we go forward in our life with. And the problem is most people and most people's parents put these beliefs in there that aren't necessarily true, but it was passed down from their father and their father and their father and their father. And so these subconscious beliefs just permeate through our history. We're going to go into some of those subconscious beliefs now, but the most important thing to do is remember the subconscious mind before the age of 7 cannot filter anything. It absorbs everything. Now, once you reach about the age of 7 or beyond, it's not a hard and fast 7, but around 7, and you'll notice this with children too, around 7, we start seeing logic, reason, and the ability to filter information. So if you're thinking of the mind, we've got the consciousness, we've got the subconscious, we've got the body, and then we have our 5 senses. So our 5 senses are what we see the world through, not with, through. And that's incredibly important because what we're doing is we're looking through these things to experience things outside of us. The things that are outside of us are results, circumstances, and environments, are things outside of our mind. So results, obviously, things that are happening, things that you're doing through your body create results. If you're working out, you create the results of building muscle. Circumstances are things that you're not actively having an impact on, but they're things that are happening out there in the outside world, outside of your mind. And then the environment is comprised of people, places, things. The way that the mind starts processing this information is through these senses, and then it filters through the consciousness and then gets into the subconscious. But the subconscious also impacts how we see through our senses. In other words, this goes both ways. So we can input information into the subconscious, and the subconscious is putting information out, and then we see through our senses based on what the subconscious beliefs are. Another way to think of this is to think of it as your conscious mind determines the what, and the subconscious mind determines the how. In other words, we see something out in the world, we objectively see, let's see, a person or a place or a thing. We go through our senses, we see that what, and then the subconscious tells us how to think about that thing. So if you were raised, if you want to do a hot button topic, if you were raised in church and you go to church and you experience people, places, and things in church, depending on how you were raised, your subconscious will tell you either this is a good thing, I have this belief that this is a safe, wonderful place, or if you had bad experiences that got into your subconscious says this is a scary, terrible place. It's all subjective based on what the subconscious has as the deeply embedded beliefs. And again, those beliefs are input into you by your family and your experiences and everything before you're 7. And then after that, you filter things through to the subconscious. But the subconscious, again, it's on autopilot. You're not doing anything consciously with it. It's running all the time in the background. And the subconscious is telling you how to think of things every single time that you're looking at anything through your senses or experiencing anything through your senses. The only way that you can change what you were programmed to believe is to consciously force new beliefs into your subconscious. Because, like I said, it goes both ways. So there are specific ways that you can go and push things into your subconscious, and we're going to go over how that works. But again, it's important to really think about how the way you were raised, and I know that this sounds like pop psychology, but this is why psychologists focus on what happened in your childhood. It's because the way that you were raised has very definite impacts on how you view the world and what you do in the world. So if you're trained to think, well, specifically from a financial perspective, money's really hard to come by. If you saw as a child your parents struggling and you saw this difficulty, like for me, I saw my dad working long hours. He would leave early in the morning before it was light outside, come home after it was dark, and it was so difficult to get by, and we had to scrimp and save for everything. My little brain says, oh, money's hard, money's difficult, there's not enough out there. You have to understand that the way that the mind is working, you're processing, your subconscious is influencing what you see. So again, how you see it or how you interpret it can even impact what you see. A good example of this is, let's say that you see a dog. So you're seeing through your senses, you see a dog. Now, if you as a little child had a dog growing up and you think a dog is a source of love and affection, how your subconscious works is you look at what you're seeing as a positive thing and you get really happy and you go pet the dog. If, when you were a small child, a dog attacked you, or you heard of stories of a dog attacking, or dogs scared you, then you see a dog outside in the environment, and you look at this through your senses, what you see is danger. You see something scary. What that means is the results of circumstances, the environment, this doesn't change. These are just things that are out there. The dog is just a dog. But what is real to you is dictated by what you are seeing and what the subconscious is saying about what you're seeing. You can change your belief. That's what we're going to be digging into next. We're going to talk about how you rewire the mind. So you get to decide. Remember what I talked about before. The brain, the subconscious part, doesn't get to choose anything, but the conscious part of your mind has the ability to choose. That's the biggest gift that you have. It's the biggest superpower you have. You have the ability to choose what you think, and you have the ability to choose what you believe. It's much easier to choose what you think because the subconscious is deeply, deeply invasive, and it's really trying to keep you safe. It's not trying to do anything negatively. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you. But the subconscious only knows that the status quo is safe. It's never experienced anything else. So your subconscious is going to fight you when you try to change it. If there's an underlying belief in there that you are trying to actively change, the subconscious is going to see that as a threat first and foremost. So it's going to fight you on this. So the way that you change subconscious beliefs are two different ways. You can change it through what's called constant spaced repetition. That's the idea that at least 7 times, you have to hear something at least 7 times for it to start to sink in, just from a conscious learning perspective. It takes much more for you to subconsciously learn it. But constant spaced repetition is this idea that you continually reinforce a belief or an idea. Now, if you just do, like, people use affirmations and they say, well, these affirmations don't work. Like, I'm sure you guys have all heard people saying, I'm so abundant, I'm so abundant. And they sit there and they say, I'm so abundant in the mirror 10 times, like the Blair Witch Project, thinking that's going to get into their brain and work. And then they're shocked when the next day they don't feel abundant. It's because, number one, they probably don't really want to believe that they're just doing an affirmation. But number two, they don't have that constant spaced repetition. The mind needs to hear something over and over, but it needs to hear it spaced out over time to allow it to digest, to absorb. So constant spaced repetition is important for changing underlying beliefs. If you identify a belief in yourself that you want to change, you need to consistently, regularly work on changing that belief. This is also the idea behind habits and changing habits. It takes at least 21 days to change a habit because you have to have that constant spaced repetition to change your habitual programming, because habitual programming is a subconscious thing running on autopilot. The other way that you can change a belief is through what's called a sudden emotional response. Now, this one is difficult to do to yourself because it has to be sudden, it has to be surprising, and it has to be an emotional response. But I mean, like an extreme example would be if you're trying to change a belief that you're not wealthy, you're trying to say, no, I'm abundant, I have all this money, and then one day you win the lottery for $100 million, then that sudden emotional response is, oh my God, I'm rich. It's a very, very silly notion. But another way to think of it is, if you've always had, let's say you've always had a self-esteem issue, or you've always had negative thoughts about how you look or how you feel, and you're walking past someone talking about you and you hear them say, oh, I wish I looked like her, she's gorgeous. Then you have this sudden emotional response where you think, oh, I'm a beautiful person. And this sudden response in your system changes that underlying belief, or it starts to. And you think, okay, now we have this sudden emotional response that's changing the underlying belief. But the way to consistently change your subconscious beliefs is through that constant spaced repetition. So remember, our consciousness has logic, reason. It's the filter through which we judge things. But the subconscious is what's operating the show. The subconscious is the thing that's dictating how we think about things. Looked at another way, the conscious mind is dealing in terms of what are we seeing, what are we hearing, what are we dealing with, and the subconscious is telling us how to think about what we're experiencing, how to think about what we're seeing, how to think about what we're thinking, honestly. Remember, we talked about what the conscious can do and what the subconscious can do. The conscious is that filter. It can think, it can reason, it can reject. It understands imagination. It has the power to choose, and that is your greatest ability consciously. But the subconscious cannot think, it cannot reason, it cannot tell fact from reality or imagination from reality. It takes whatever we input into our system. It only operates on pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is huge because that subconscious is underlying what's going on in our brains. and looking for pattern. Remember, the subconscious has two functions. It's there to keep you alive, and it's there to help you reach the age of procreation. It's just trying to keep you alive and further the species. It's not thinking about anything else. But what's important to understand about this is the subconscious, how it looks at the world and how its beliefs are formed, comes out through our actions. So our actions are dictated by what our subconscious mind is doing. And it operates subconsciously. So a lot of the times we don't even recognize what we're doing and the actions we're taking. We don't recognize what the body or what our brains or what we're physically doing, how it's impacted by what the subconscious is thinking underneath it all. Remember, the body executes what the subconscious mind has already accepted. So our actions are a direct mirror into what our subconscious brain is thinking. Before the age of 7, everything was just dumped into our subconscious mind. It was just an open cup. Everything came in. We had no ability to filter it, no way to reason anything. Our conscious mind was not yet formed. So a lot of our beliefs came in at that age of 7, and they've been stuck there because we haven't actively changed them at all. Your subconscious beliefs start before you're 7, and they're in there without any filter before the age of 7. We talked about how do you change those subconscious beliefs. There are two main ways to do it. You change your subconscious beliefs through constant spaced repetition, so hearing the same thing over and over. And psychologically, it's been proven that we need to hear something at least 7 times for us to get that starting to stick in our mind. The other way that you can do it is through a sudden emotional response. Now, a couple of things I want you all to take away from this. Everything else that's in your brain was put there by someone else. You can decide with your conscious mind to change that belief. If you rewire your mind, you can change your belief. How cool is that? By using these principles, you can actually go in and rewire those deeply embedded subconscious beliefs that were put there, possibly without your consent because they were put there before the age of 7. And by using constant spaced repetition, in other words, repeating to yourself over and over the new belief that you want to have, you can actually impress upon your subconscious mind this new belief. And like we talked about, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real or imagined, or what's real versus what we're feeding into it over and over. So just as a practical point here, let's say that you are trying to change the outer results that you're seeing in your financial situation. In other words, you want more money in your life. If there's some subconscious belief going on that there's not enough money, everything is really bad right now with the stock market, and I'm not going to be able to make the money that I need to because money is difficult, yada, yada, yada. If those are the subconscious thoughts going on in your mind, the way that we rewire those subconscious thoughts through constant spaced repetition is we start telling ourselves, either out loud or in our mind, over and over what the belief is that we want to believe. So this is where that idea of affirmations come in. But the reason it doesn't work for everyone is because they don't understand what they're actually supposed to be doing with these affirmations. What you do is you tell yourself, your subconscious mind, over and over, I have all of the money I possibly need. Don't say I'm getting it. We don't want to make it some future thing. We want to make it present right now. So your subconscious believes this is what is real right now. So you tell your subconscious, I am very wealthy. I have all of the money I could possibly need. I do not have to worry about money. I am successful. I have financial stability, and I am wealthy. And you say that to yourself over and over and over until your subconscious starts taking that into its belief system as real. And I know it sounds a little crazy, but as we talked about this entire episode, there are psychological principles that explain how your subconscious gets wired in the first place. So knowing that, we can then rewire the subconscious the way we want to. The mind really is flexible. This is a concept known as neuroplasticity. And this is something that is talked about quite a lot in different psychological journals and research projects that are going on right now. The idea is we have the power to rewire our mind. And the implications of that are that if we rewire our mind based on what we talked about in the last episode, we change our thoughts, then we change our own reality. So by putting this idea of constant spaced repetition into effect, we not only change the underlying belief that we have from a psychological perspective, we can change the actual reality that we're seeing. Super cool. This is what this podcast is here to do, is to show you that these ideas like saying positive affirmations, while they sound very woo-woo, if you understand where it's coming from, you can understand the logic behind them. And once you understand the logic, you can actually effectively start using these principles to change your life. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Hopefully this search for truth proved enlightening for you. I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. If you liked what you heard and you want to learn more, please check us out at www.360strategicsuccess.com. Or you can follow me on social media. My handle is Alexis Austin Lytle. That's Litle. Remember to subscribe as well so you can catch us on the next episode where we continue to uncover the truth.